Disclaimer: the following narrative is based on open source reports and public claims.
A short video has been spreading across social media, showing a group of soldiers raising a Russian flag in a destroyed village. Russian state media identified the location as Rovnoye and claimed the settlement had been liberated. To many viewers, the image looks simple. A flag goes up, and the territory is considered taken. But in modern warfare, a video rarely tells the full story. In fact, short visual clips like this often become weapons that are more powerful than bullets. The real question isn't just what we see, but what we don't see. Is this genuine proof of control, or part of a larger narrative designed to shape how the world understands this conflict? Rovnoye is a small settlement in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk region. The name may not be familiar to most people, but in military strategy, small villages can carry huge importance. The Donetsk region has been a conflict zone since 2014 and turned into a full-scale battlefield after the 2022 invasion. Rovnoye sits along routes that connect to key Ukrainian logistical areas, including zones near Pokrovsk. That means controlling a small point like this can open the door to much larger pressure on surrounding regions. This is why small villages often become the center of intense fighting, even if they look insignificant on a map. According to Russia's narrative, the takeover of Rovnoye followed a series of intense military operations. They claim their forces broke through Ukrainian defenses and secured the settlement. The flag-raising video was then used as visual proof of success. In this version of events, Russia presents itself as fully in control, organized, and unstoppable. But in modern war, these narratives are often polished for a reason. What isn't shown in the video can be far more important than what appears on camera. Interestingly, even Russian sources acknowledge that Ukraine fought back. Reports mention Ukrainian counterattacks aimed at breaking pressure and opening escape routes for trapped units. This suggests Rovnoye was not taken without resistance, but rather fought over in close-range, chaotic battles. Fighting in villages like this is usually brutal and confusing, with many details never reaching the public. What the world eventually sees is only the final image, a flag waving in the air. But behind that image, there may have been days of hard-fought combat that the camera never captured. This is where a more critical but balanced look at Ukrainian strategy comes in. Several military analysts argue that Ukraine is facing an extremely heavy defensive burden. They have to protect long front lines with limited resources, which forces difficult trade-offs. Spreading forces too thin can leave certain sectors more fragile. When the focus is placed on major cities and key highways, smaller villages often receive less priority. This is not about weakness or lack of will, but about the structural reality of trying to defend a massive area under constant pressure from multiple directions. The biggest problem in the Rovnoye case is the lack of independent verification. Almost all claims come from Russian sources or pro-Russian channels. At the same time, there are very few open reports from neutral organizations confirming who actually controls the village. This is a defining feature of modern warfare. Information itself becomes a weapon. The truth is often delayed, and whoever tells the story first usually shapes what the public believes. In situations like this, the line between fact and propaganda becomes extremely blurry. Raising a flag in a war zone is not just an emotional symbol, it is a psychological tactic. For one's own troops, it boosts morale and a sense of victory. For the opposing side, it creates mental pressure and the feeling of losing control. For the global audience, it builds the illusion that the battle is already over. In reality, places like this are often gray zones. They may appear controlled one day and contested the next. But once public perception is formed, it becomes much harder to change. In modern conflicts, the side that controls the narrative is often remembered more than the side that controls the land. Ukraine finds itself fighting on two fronts, the physical battlefield and the information battlefield. Delays in responding to Russian claims can create empty space in the public mind. That empty space is almost always filled by the opponent's version of events. This is one of the hardest challenges for any country forced into a defensive position, because it must defend not only territory but also credibility and perception. In the end, the story of Rovnoye isn't just about a small village in Donetsk. It's a reflection of how modern war really works. It's not only about tanks and artillery, but also about cameras, short videos, and carefully built narratives. We may never fully know who controls this village on any given day, but we can learn not to blindly trust everything we see on a screen. If you enjoy this kind of analysis, leave your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe so you don't miss future coverage of global conflicts.